The paper has one name on it. You don't recognize it. The ink is smeared at the corner from where the old man's thumb pressed too hard when he folded it. He folded it slowly, like it cost him something. Like handing it to you was a transaction he'd been calculating for 80 minutes. It is 2 a.m. Mosul, 2004. You are on a rooftop. The city below you smells like diesel and something older than diesel. In the distance, a checkpoint light blinks once, twice, then holds steady. You fold the paper into your breast pocket without looking at it again. You've been building toward this moment for 19 years. Not this rooftop, not this name, but this. The moment when someone who trusts no one decides that you are worth the risk. That is the whole job. That has always been the whole job. Most people think the Green Berets are about weapons, or endurance, or the kind of toughness that gets photographed well. They're wrong. This is a story about 10 levels of a career that most people will never see from the inside. 10 levels that each ask the same question in a different language, in a different country, at a different altitude. Not, can you fight? Not, can you survive? Always, can you be trusted? Stay with this. Level 1. You are 19. The man next to you just sat down. No injury, no dramatic collapse. He simply stopped walking, lowered himself onto a rock at the side of the trail, and set his rucksack down with the careful precision of someone who has made a decision and is done reconsidering it. His name is Torres. He is from San Antonio. At intake, he ran a 6-minute mile. He is faster than you. He is stronger than you by most measurable standards. He is done. A cadre member walks over. No raised voice. No theater. He marks something on a clipboard, produces a form, and holds it out. Torres signs it without looking up. Voluntary withdrawal. 30 seconds from decision to signature. He stands, adjusts his kit out of habit, and walks back toward the road without making eye contact with anyone. You keep walking. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 1987. The pine trees here don't look like the ones back home. They're taller. They grow too close together. They block the light in a way that feels deliberate. The cadre are quiet men with flat voices who issue instructions once. If you miss something, it is logged. No drama. No repetition. The distance changes without warning. You think you've reached the end point, and someone points to a ridgeline 3 miles further. Your boots are new. Your blisters are not. By week 3, the men still walking all share exactly one thing. It is not fitness. It is not speed. It is that they have not yet constructed a reason good enough to stop. That is the entire selection. Not a test of what you can do. A test of the story you tell yourself about what you can't. Think about something you've quit. Was the reason real, or did you find a moment where quitting felt reasonable and let the moment make the decision for you? You passed SFAS, barely, and the evaluator wrote something on your file that you will tape to your wall for the next 18 months. The man next to you just solved the problem perfectly. And failed. His name is Henderson. Sharp, technically flawless. During a leader reaction drill, 2 problems hit simultaneously. He assessed both in under 4 seconds, prioritized correctly, and executed the first solution with precision. The cadre watched without expression. When it was over, the debrief was 3 sentences. You solved half the situation. The other half is still there. Henderson is recycled 6 months. You watch, you adjust, you stop trying to be perfect, you start trying to be adaptive. The Q course runs 18 months for your specialty. 18B weapons sergeant, but the weapons are almost incidental. Your instructor, a staff sergeant named Briggs, who did 2 tours in El Salvador and never discusses them, tells you this on day 1. He leans against the wall with his arms crossed and speaks like a man who has already said this 100 times and stopped caring whether anyone believes it. You are not learning to shoot. You are learning to walk into a room full of people who have every reason not to trust you, in a country you've never visited, and make them willing to follow a plan you designed. That reframes everything. Field exercises run 72 hours. 4 hours of sleep total. You write patrol orders at 2 a.m. by red lens flashlight. Pencil moving across waterproof paper on your knee. The ink slightly blurred where your wrist dragged. Your orders are graded not on tactics, on clarity. Can the man next to you execute your plan without you in the room? If not, the plan was never finished. The final phase is Robin Sage. 3 weeks. Rural North Carolina. Civilian role players acting as a fictional guerrilla resistance. You must recruit them, earn them, lead them. You fail the first trust building meeting. You came in too formal, too certain, too American. The guerrilla chief tells you afterward, still in character. You talked to me like I was a problem you were solving. You go back the next day with nothing but a question and enough silence to let the answer breathe. It goes differently. The colonel pins the tab. He doesn't give a speech. He shakes your hand, looks you in the eye, and says 2 words. You will spend the next 30 years trying to fully understand what they meant. Level 3, you are 22, he is 19. He speaks 3 languages. He has never left his country, and in 2 weeks, he will teach you more about communication than 18 months of formal training did. His name is Marco. He is your interpreter in Honduras, 1989. The political situation along the Nicaraguan border is the kind of tense that doesn't make headlines because nobody wants to explain it. Your job is not combat. Your job is to run a rifle marksmanship program for 60 Honduran soldiers in 14 days. 53 of them have never zeroed a rifle. You don't speak Spanish with any confidence. Marco does not wait to be asked. The first morning, before the soldiers arrive, he is already at the Land Cruiser, drawing target diagrams on the hood with a grease pencil, translating your curriculum into something that will land in a context you don't fully understand yet. The diagrams are rough. They are exactly right. By day 11, 48 of those soldiers can hit a man-sized target at 200 meters with consistency. Your team's sergeant, Master Sergeant Callahan, watches one afternoon from the tree line. 41 years old, 2 combat infantrymen badges, 1 Purple Heart he has never mentioned. He watches for 20 minutes without moving. That evening, he sits down next to you at dinner and says nothing for a long time. Then he stands up and goes to bed. That was the debrief. You expected evaluation. You got silence, and somehow the silence carried everything the evaluation never could. Approval in the language spoken by men who have stopped needing to announce it. You understand something in Honduras that the Q course described but could not fully deliver. The greatest gap in any training program is the distance between knowing how to do something and knowing how to make someone else want to do it. Marco closed that gap instinctively. You are still learning how. 6 years later, you will be the senior man, and the junior assigned to you will remind you of yourself in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Level 4, you are 28. The war ended on paper 3 months ago. Paper doesn't smell like that. Travnik, Bosnia, 1995. Your mission is to assess and train a newly reconstituted Bosnian army unit, ethnically mixed, Bosniaks and Croats, who 18 months ago may have been firing at each other across the same hills. They are now expected to patrol together. The junior sergeant assigned to you is 22 from Wisconsin, eager and technically sharp. She watches everything. She reminds you of yourself 6 years ago, before Honduras, before you understood what Marco was actually teaching you. The first 3 days are ice, not cold, ice. The specific stillness of people who have decided to be in the same room without being in the same room. They train in silence. They eat at opposite ends of every table. The space between them is not empty. It is full of something that has no name in the debrief format. On day 4, you design a crew-served weapons qualification. 3-man teams, 1 Bosniak, 1 Croat, 1 who can be either. They cannot pass as individuals. The standard doesn't care about ethnicity. It only recognizes completion or failure. They fail the first attempt. They fail the second. On the 3rd attempt, a Croat corporal named Branko is on the gun. When his Bosniak partner fumbles a reload under time pressure, Branko doesn't say anything. He doesn't announce the problem. He simply reaches across, clears the malfunction with 2 practice movements, and resets his hands on the weapon. The gunner nods. They qualify. You don't celebrate. You move to the next station. But that night, you write it in your personal notebook, not in any official report, just for yourself. 2 men who had every reason to let each other fail, forced into a shared standard, finding something inside that standard that no treaty had managed to manufacture. The junior sergeant asks you 3 days later, how do you train people to trust each other? You don't answer immediately. You think about Branko's hands, the 2 movements, the nod. You don't, you tell her finally. You build a standard high enough that getting over it together matters more than who's standing next to you. She writes it down. You're not sure you fully believed it until you heard yourself say it. You are 33 when you understand what Travnik was actually preparing you for. It will take a valley in Afghanistan and a man who has not trusted an American in his entire life. Level 5. You are 33. The CIA liaison smells like cave dust and cold coffee. He has been here 6 weeks. He looks at your 12-man team the way a man looks at something he's not sure will help but has run out of alternatives. He gives you the briefing in 11 minutes. Then he says, "Fair doesn't trust Americans." He says it like a warning. It is actually a description of the problem you were sent here to solve. October 2001. Your team, ODA 572, 5th Special Forces Group, inserts by helicopter into a valley north of Kandahar. No paved roads, no forward operating base, no reliable maps of the interior. The mountains here are not dramatic. They are indifferent. They have watched armies come through this valley for 2,000 years, and they will watch armies come through after you. Farid's militia controls a critical mountain pass. They have been fighting the Taliban since 1996. His men are not soldiers by any formal definition. They are men who have been defending the same ground for so long that the ground has become part of them. Farid does not sit across from you. He sits at an angle, like someone who learned long ago never to face a door directly. The captain handles the opening. You sit back. You watch Farid. You watch his lieutenants. You note who looks at whom when a question is asked. You know that in Pashtun culture, the T is not hospitality. The T is the negotiation. Refusing it is a position. Accepting it is a position. How long you hold the cup before drinking is a position. 2 hours pass. The captain defers to you. You don't stand. You don't shift forward. You set your cup down slowly and you ask Farid which season kills the most of his men, not the Taliban, the season. Farid is quiet for a long time. Then he leans forward for the first time since you sat down. His eyes change in a way that has no military terminology. You ask the right questions. That was the moment, not the 11 days that followed, not the precision airstrikes, not the collapsed Taliban defensive position that had held for 4 years, not the debrief at Kandahar airfield attended by a 2-star general asking how 12 men achieved what a battalion couldn't. This moment, this cup, this question. The captain will answer the general correctly. "We didn't do it, sir. They did. We just helped them believe they could." But the answer began here, in the asking of something that had no tactical value and no agenda behind it. Real curiosity. The kind that lands differently than performed curiosity because the person across the table always knows the difference. Unconventional warfare does not begin with a plan. It begins the moment you stop trying to impose your framework and start learning theirs. You are 38 when the other side of this lesson arrives. Not in a foreign country, in a parking lot at Fort Carson, Colorado, level 6. You are 38. You visit the same 3 shops every morning, not because you enjoy it, not because the intelligence picture improves incrementally with each visit. Because the 3rd time a stranger sees your face and you haven't taken anything from him, he begins to wonder if you might be worth knowing. The 4th time, he starts to calculate the cost of talking to you. By the 8th time, the calculation has shifted. You are no longer a threat assessment. You are a presence, and presence in a neighborhood where loyalty is rented by whoever projects the most force is the only currency that compounds. Mosul, 2004. The conventional unit responsible for this sector moves in armored columns at speed. They project force without presence. They are not wrong to do it. It is simply a different theory of the same problem. Your theory requires more time and produces results that cannot be photographed. You learn the names of the shopkeeper's children. You attend the funeral of a man your team never met because your interpreter said his family carries influence in the district and grief is the only honest currency left in a city fracturing along lines the invasion plan never accounted for. 8 weeks pass. Then Abu Khalil agrees to meet you. He is 60 years old. 3 sons killed in the Iran-Iraq War. He has survived long enough to distrust everyone with efficiency. He sits across from you in his home, and for the first 90 minutes, he talks about the neighborhood. Not the conflict, the neighborhood. What the street looked like before. The bakery that was on the corner for 30 years before it wasn't. The tree outside his window that nobody remembers planting. You don't interrupt once. At the end, he folds a piece of paper slowly, like it cost him something, and presses it into your hand with his thumb. One name, the man moving money into the Salafist network from across the Syrian border. 3 weeks later, the funding is disrupted. 3 attacks don't happen. You will never know about 2 of them. A junior sergeant asks how you knew Abu Khalil would talk. You tell him the truth. I didn't. I just made sure I was worth the risk of talking to, Tian. The most dangerous man in any conflict zone is not the one with the best weapons. It is the one the locals trust enough to give a folded piece of paper to at the end of 90 minutes of talking about a tree. 12 men, 1 district, 1 name, 3 attacks that never happened. That is what America was in that neighborhood during those weeks. Not the government, not the policy, the 12 men in front of them. Whatever those 12 men were, that is what America was. You carry that weight every time you walk out the gate. Level 7, you are 44. The hardest day of your career is not in Honduras or Bosnia or Mosul. It is the morning you realize you are no longer on a team. Fort Carson, Colorado, you are Company Sergeant Major, 3 ODAs, 36 men. You are responsible for their training standards, their readiness, their professional development, and the culture of every team room on your floor. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are in their 2nd decade. The force is tired in a way that doesn't show in the field because these men would never allow it to show in the field. You see it in what they don't say. The way a team sergeant mentions his daughter's birthday and changes the subject before the sentence is finished. The way a senior medic laughs too quickly at things that aren't funny. You have a sergeant on ODA 732. Dominguez, 7 deployments, 2 silver stars. He begins missing morning formation, not dramatically, intermittently, always with a reasonable explanation. His team sergeant covers for him out of loyalty. The loyalty is real. It is also making things worse. One afternoon, you walk to the parking lot and lean against a truck and wait for him. When he arrives, you don't say anything official. You don't reference the absences. You ask him one question. Tell me about the last time you slept without something waiting for you when you woke up. He looks at you for a long time. Then he tells you. You don't write anything down. You make 3 phone calls the next morning. Within a week, Dominguez is in a program that has existed in the SF community since the mid-90s and appears on no public document. He gets 90 days. He comes back. 2 years later, he is a team sergeant. The most important operation a senior NCO will ever run is not in a foreign country. It is in the team room. Every morning, level 8, you are 47. Lieutenant Colonel, Tampa, 2011, SOCOM headquarters. The Bin Laden raid has just happened. The SEALs are on every magazine cover. Senators have discovered special operations. Generals are making promises that the mission cannot keep. You sit in a planning conference surrounded by slides on direct action, capture or kill, network disruption, almost nothing on foreign internal defense, nothing on the long game. A 1-star general pulls you aside during a break. He asks what Green Berets do that SEALs can't. You think about Fared, about Abu Khalil, about Branko's hands on that weapon in Travnik. A SEAL is the best answer to a question that's already been asked. A Green Beret is how you figure out what the right question is. He writes it down. You win 1 argument out of 3. The one you win preserves a 6-month mission in West Africa that nobody at the Pentagon has heard of and that quietly produces a counterterrorism partnership still functioning 15 years later. That result will never appear in any article about you. It has to be enough. Level 9. You are 52. Your wife says she doesn't always know who she married anymore. She is not wrong. You are not entirely sure either. You command a special forces group, roughly 3,500 soldiers, a full geographic area of responsibility, enough clearances that certain conversations end when you enter the room and resume when you leave. The wars that defined your generation are winding down into something that has no clean name. The threat environment is global, distributed, and increasingly resistant to the tools the last 20 years optimized for. You are no longer just executing the mission. You are being asked to define what it should be. You testify before a Senate subcommittee. The committee members arrive with preloaded questions engineered for headlines rather than understanding. You answer carefully. What is true without what is classified? What is useful without what is dangerous? You are precise the way a man is precise when he knows the transcript will outlast the moment. But you understand, seated in that chamber under those lights, that the most important audience is not in the room. It is a junior sergeant at Fort Bragg, watching this on a laptop in a team room at 11 p.m. He is trying to determine whether the people above him have any real understanding of what he actually does, whether the institution he has given everything to still knows what it is for. You try to be the version of this testimony he doesn't have to be ashamed of. Your greatest enemy at this level carries no weapon. It is institutional gravity, the slow, structural tendency of any large organization to optimize for its own continuation rather than its original purpose. Processes accumulate, briefings multiply. The ratio of people who support the mission to people who execute it drifts steadily toward the wrong end. You fight it where you can. You lose more than you win, but you protect the team, always the team. Because everything else, the headquarters, the staff, the command relationships, the clearances, the testimony, the planning conferences, all of it exists for one reason. 12 men in a foreign country sitting across a table from someone who doesn't yet trust them, trying to make something work. That's it. That's all of it. Level 10, you are 57, Fort Bragg, same pine trees, different men in the seats. There is a young sergeant in the third row, maybe 23, fresh from the Q course, the kind of lean, deliberate quiet you recognize the way you recognize a tool that has been correctly made. He watches the ceremony with an expression you cannot read from the podium, not reverence, something more precise than reverence. He is measuring something. You were that man once. You know exactly what he is measuring. He is trying to determine whether the finish line is worth the road. The general gives a good speech. It covers the deployments. The declassified ones, Honduras, Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, West Africa. It mentions the awards and the commands and the milestones that fit inside an official record. It does not mention Torres sitting down on the trail in 1987. It does not mention Marco, 19 years old, 3 languages, a grease pencil moving across the hood of a Land Cruiser in the Honduran heat, drawing diagrams that would teach you more about communication than any formal curriculum ever did. Marco is probably 45 years old now. You will never know what became of him. That is also part of the job. It doesn't mention Abu Khalil's folded paper, or Dominguez in the parking lot, or the argument in Tampa that saved a mission nobody photographed. The speech describes the record. Every word of it is accurate. None of it is the education. You are given a folded flag. You drive home alone. Your family is waiting. Your youngest daughter, 18 now, tells you she wants to be a doctor. She has spent her entire childhood counting the days between your departures and your returns. She has chosen a profession where you stay. You don't explain why that lands the way it does. You don't need to. That night, after everyone is asleep, you sit on the back porch. No assessment, no after-action review. Just the dark and the sound of something moving in the yard, and the feeling of something very long having ended. You sit there until the cold is real enough to be useful. You don't feel diminished. You don't feel regret. You feel the shape of a life built on a single repeating commitment. Show up. Stay. Make yourself worth trusting. Leave the people you worked with slightly more capable than you found them. Somewhere tonight, in a country you are not permitted to name, there is a soldier who can field strip a weapon he didn't grow up with, read terrain he has never trained on, and lead men through conditions he was never formally prepared for. Because someone drove 4 hours on a dirt road to be there. Because someone asked the right question over tea. Because someone reached across and cleared a malfunction without being asked. He doesn't know your name, he never will. That's how you know it worked. 10 levels, 38 years. The same question asked in 10 different languages, in 10 different countries, at 10 different altitudes. Not, can you fight? Not, can you endure? Always, can you be trusted? The Green Berets don't build monuments. They build the capacity to go on without them. The best ones, the ones who truly understood the work, made sure you never needed to know their name to benefit from what they did. That's the job. That's always been the job. If this story reached something in you, leave one word in the comments. The level that hit hardest, that's all.